Okay, folks, welcome. I'm Mike Partika, and this is my review of Ghost of the Badlands. That is the comic book that is first in the Iron Age of comics by Razorfist and George Alexopoulos. Does this comic stand up to scrutiny? Let's take a look. We open on a scene where our protagonist for the book is actually the character who is bloodied and lying on the ground, and he's recounting the first time that he met this other character called the Ghost of the Badlands. And he's just been shot up to pieces by four gunslingers. And then the Ghost of the Badlands appears, and he quotes some scripture, and then he pulls his gun and starts blazing away at the men, killing them all. And I do have one little technical complaint here in that the first of these paws and paw actually intersects with the second of the panels, which, considering that there is a gun being fired here in this panel, it kind of makes it feel like the pawing is just kind of a shared sound effect between these two panels as opposed to the sound effect of the ghost's firearm itself. Why should we think that, for example, this gun is going to be depicted silently, whereas we're going to get a non-silent depiction of only the ghost's gun? I would have separated this sound effect a little bit better so that we knew that it was only pertaining to the ghost's gun. There's also kind of a counting problem going on. We start off where we've got four guys surrounding the downed gunslinger, and they get blown away, and all of a sudden there's like six other guys who have been in the scene that we'd never seen before, and they are all getting picked off, but we don't actually see the pickings off, so that we actually go down from like six to five to four and then to two, and we don't even know how we got from four to two. It's just implied that at some point the Ghost of the Badlands took them out. So he draws his gun, quotes some more scripture, blows them away, and then we focus back on our protagonist, who focuses his attention on a young girl who is lying behind or lying between the bleeding bodies of what are presumably her parents, and he watches as the Ghost of the Badlands quotes some more scripture and reaches his hand out to the girl and then takes the girl away to safety. Now, unbeknownst to this guy, the Ghost of the Badlands also takes him to safety and leaves him to convalesce at a hotel, although he did lose his arm. There was no saving his shooting arm, and being a gunslinger without a shooting arm, he's thinking briefly about killing himself, but then notices that someone has left him a letter, and it's from the Ghost of the Badlands. And the ghost says, basically, I know that you were with the men who shot you, and you had the opportunity to kill the girl, and were commanded to kill the girl, and because you didn't, that's why you got shot. And because of this, I've left you alive, and if you want, you can, just go on with your life, or you can come work for me. And he says, the only price I demand is Christian obedience. So there is kind of a religious overtone that we know is running through the whole Ghost of the Badlands thing, and the overtone of redemption, especially. This guy was previously a gunslinger in the service of bad men. Is he willing to be a gunslinger, albeit a one-armed gunslinger, in the service of a presumably good man? So he's given a rosary that has the ghost symbol on it, and using this, he can identify other people who work for the ghost as well, such as a bartender who passes on a telegram from the ghost saying that, hey, I want you to infiltrate this group of highwaymen who are, frequenting that particular bar. And so the ghost leaves him a bunch of money so that he can buy them some drinks, buy them some ammo, and basically ingratiate himself with them and befriend their leader, Will Blackfeather. And soon he has joined the Blackfeather gang, and he is robbing a stagecoach with them. Now, I'm not going to go into the rest of the book. That would be a little bit too spoilery. What I'm going to do is just show the pros and cons that I found with it. The pros, text and art are clear and understandable. It's good writing, it's good art. There are occasional little glitches, like in this case, it's not immediately clear that the proper sequence of panels ought to, and following of dialogue ought to go in this direction rather than this direction, which is what I originally did, and I think I did that based on the fact that there was a larger separation in the panel space between these two than there was in these two. I think I would close that up a bit. Um, and also probably not have this balloon quite so high. But that's just kind of a minor glitch, and you don't get too many of those in the book. It's very clear for the most part. The art style is a good balance between Western and manga influences. Now, if you look at this picture, for example, you see a lot of the detail and speed lines, event lines that often surround manga work, but at the same time, the figures retain their Western style. You never get into a cartoonish style for these characters, and so it winds up being a good blend of both East and West. There is sufficient action in the book to hold interest. You're never really left very long without something of note happening that's going to keep your attention on the book. There's also a standard good versus evil motif. You're not dealing with one of the complaints that I know that has been levied against the Rippaverse is that it seems like none of the the leading characters, are actually good guys. But that's not the case here. You do have a clear-cut division between good and evil, and so that may appeal to many readers. And then there's also a decent use of Save the Cat, which is a writing technique in which you make sure that your protagonist and those allied with the protagonist are people that the reader will sympathize with and root for. For example, in this case, we have the fact that the protagonist had a chance to kill a little girl and did not do so to his own harm, and also the ghost of the Badlands treats this girl with dignity and takes her to safety, which makes us basically feel like we're both on their side. We're on both of their sides. Now, the cons of the book are many, and one is just that the background struggle in the book is explained. There is a text page at the beginning of the book that basically talks about how there's conflict about land ownership and how the railroad companies want to build channels of communication, channels of trade throughout the region in the Oklahoma Territory, but they don't want to, respect the land rights of the people living there, and therefore you have all these conflicts. But it often winds up there. There is a disconnect between that larger conflict and what you're seeing on the page, because it's not immediately obvious, for example, that the people who have been killed in the very first raid shown in the book are people who owned title rights to land that other companies wanted. So you wind up getting an explanation of here's what's going on, but then you wind up getting introduced to a situation that you don't necessarily need to connect with that larger struggle. You could just be for anything. Maybe they just wanted money. Maybe they just wanted horses. Maybe they just wanted some sort of riches that they thought the stagecoach might have. Any twists and turns in the plot are minor. There are no real surprises. I mean, generally, anytime there's something that's about to take place, you kind of know it's going to happen before it happens. So there's a bit of predictability in there. If you don't know the identity of a character right off, then all of a sudden you think, oh yeah, I bet it's this person. Characters who you didn't think might know each other, it turns out they're revealed to know each other, and it's no real surprise. So it's not a very complicated book. There is at least one big lore insert, probably more. It's what I call the tale of the Navajo Death Cave. There's a whole big long explanation of how the Navajo went and cornered a bunch of other another tribe in a cave and basically killed them all slowly in the cave. Um, and it seemed like the only reason that lore insert is in there is either to make us impressed with the writer's knowledge of the things that happened at the time, or to make the character of Will Blackfeather somebody who's particularly despicable, and it doesn't really resound. It doesn't really feel relevant. It's one of those moments where I almost say it's a kill your darlings moment where, yeah, I know you really wanted to put that in there, but it's not serving any real purpose, so why do that? There's surface level spirituality throughout the book. I mean, quoting Bible verses does not a true Christian make. This is one of the problems that I had with Billy Tucci's She, is that, yeah, Anna Ishikawa is supposed to be a Christian samurai, but what the hell does that even mean? If you're going out and killing people in revenge, that's not Christian behavior, and it shouldn't be bastardized into being such. And likewise, what we're seeing in Ghost of the Badlands is kind of a surface level Christian spirituality where you basically cherry pick what you think is going to serve your lust for revenge. Um, I, I just it's shallow and it feels shallow. There are no interior conflicts in the book. The characters are either good or bad. You know that you've got if you're dealing with somebody who's working for the Ghost of the Badlands, he's a good guy. Even when you're dealing with the protagonist, who we know was previously working for a gang of bad guys, the redemption is kind of clear and complete and there all along, and there's no question at any point as to whether this guy's going to turn back to his old ways. It's all just if you've got a good guy, you've got a good guy. If you've got a bad guy, you've got a bad guy. And probably the worst thing about the book is that there's really no emotional payoff. None of these characters are so unlikable, or even on the good side, so likable, that when inevitably good conquers evil, as you would expect in a book like this to do, uh, you don't feel anything from it. It just feels like it's an inevitability, and it feels like there was really no sense of risk. There was really no sense of um, a sense of risk, and also a corresponding sense of reward. It doesn't feel good that good won. It just happened, and you expect it, and then the book's done. So overall score for the book, largely because of the fact that there's no real payoff to it, that it's just kind of a trite good versus evil story that doesn't really go into much depth of really anything. Not depth of history, not depth of spirituality, and not depth of conflict. It's a competently made book, and so because of the technical competence, but at the same time the hollowness of it, I've got to put it at a 5.5, which is below the 6.0 threshold of books that I would generally recommend. That I'd like to see something more of. I was very, very tempted to put Ghost of the Badlands at a 6.0, but then I thought to myself, if there was actually a sequel to this book that I know Razorfist was thinking of at one point, but I think George Alexopoulos put the kibosh on that, I think I would have been more annoyed than I would have been intrigued. So Ghost of the Badlands gets a high mark of 5.5, but falls below the 6.0 threshold of books that I could actually recommend to anyone. So that is why I call this presentation Iron and Vapor. You read the story and it's kind of gone. It's smoke in the wind, and you're on to the next thing. So that is my presentation of the Ghost of the Badlands review from Razorfist and George Alexopoulos. Please do subscribe. My next review is likely to be Liam Gray's Dino King. And I have finally got my second copy of Dino King that I can cannibalize for scans. So now that that's in my hot little hands, I will be able to read that and give a presentation on that. This is the book that Ethan Van Sciver highly recommended. It will be interesting to see if I can see what it is he saw in that book. And we shall see. Yeah, that's a lot of time saying see and saw. Anyway, I'm Mike Partika. Thanks again for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you later.